Hello, my name is Kerry Loughran, and this afternoon, I am here with two leaders of the World Paper Money field, our very own Aris Maragoudakis and the newest member of our team, Dennis Hengeveld. Gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you for having us.
So for those who haven't heard, Stack's Bowers recently acquired World Banknote Auctions. So Aris, could you please tell us more about this exciting news?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Well, as most people in the world paper money industry know, they're very familiar with Dennis Hengeveld. He's one of the foremost experts in the field across the board, spanning all the continents. And he's a very passionate banknote collector who's created a very successful business at World Banknote Auctions. So, being competitors for a while, it's a little because he's so good at what he does. But I think collectively, both parties recognized an opportunity to join forces and really put together a true collector-driven product for world banknotes that the hobby really needs.
Yeah, absolutely. So Dennis, as a business owner with a growing auction business, what prompted you to take this step forward with Stacks?
So I think at every point, every business gets to a point where they have to decide what's important to them. And at World Banknote Auctions, we came to that point probably about a year or so ago where we either could expand more and more, or I could join forces with a bigger outlet such as Stack's Bowers. And one of the reasons I did it was really just, I didn't want to lose touch with that personal experience that I've always focused on. That's always been very important to me, as a collector myself. I think it's very important to pay attention to certain specific details. And I think with World Banknote Auctions, we've always filled that gap. So I'm excited to bring that on here to Stack's Bowers as we move forward.
Yeah. So with your clients and everything, what is most important to you communicating with them?
So I think that personal service, like I brought up, I think a lot of times, look, for a lot of collectors, they spent years, they've spent time and money building a collection. And when it comes to time to sell, oftentimes it's not an easy decision. But my focus has always been, let's help those collectors present the absolute best product we can and give them a catalog, give them descriptions that, they can be proud of, that they can kind of leave as a legacy, so that somebody 20 years from now picks up that catalog and opens it up and say, whoa, that's a fantastic collection that Stack's Bowers offered at that time.
Mm-hmm. And Aris, do you have anything to add to that as well?
Yeah, I think we collectively, Dennis, myself, Stacks as a whole, having a business for 90 years in this hobby and selling some of the greatest collections, it's obviously evident that we all truly do care about the product. And, Dennis and his company and our company, our interests align perfectly, and as we work towards that goal. And the field of paper money has grown exponentially over the past 5 years. Our business threefold. We've obviously expanded and added other experts like Kelvin to the team, Henrik, Adam. So with Dennis here, I think we're able to handle a lot more of that bandwidth and keep the quality control the same and even better going forward, especially now that Dennis is here.
So both of you are really big names here in the industry, but what got you started with collecting? Aris, we'll start with you.
Well, when I was a kid growing up, my father and my uncle were distributors for sport cards. So I grew up in a collectibles business, and I've always had an affinity for things that I found a connection with. As I got older, I moved back to New York. I was doing some freelance photography and things like that, and my uncle needed help at the trade shows, and he was now in the banknote business. So he asked me to come out with him, help watch his table, and that was my first exposure. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. Old New York banknotes from Greece, things that I connected with. And then I just started going to more shows with him more frequently. And I connected with Peter Treglia, who, alerted me that there was an opening out here if I wanted to come and get my beak wet and learn a little bit about the business. And, being an East Coaster, it was like, West Coast pretty far away, but it's beautiful out here. I jumped at the opportunity, and, 9 years later, we're here. But during that time of working for my uncle is actually when I first met Dennis. What about you? How'd you get started? Because I don't think I even know the story.
So I've always, even as a kid, was collecting, anything you could. It could be I was living in Europe, so we didn't really have sports cards, but there were little trading things they put into bag of chips and rocks. And I remember when I was 7 years old, my grandmother gave me a coin, old Dutch coin, I still have it. And that kind of piqued my interest, and I started reading about coins and learning about coins. And eventually, when I was 13, 14, I got into U.S. coins and also paper money. And then when I was 20, in my early 20s, I moved to the United States and kind of continued, working, collecting, and kept going to trade shows, kind of similar as you. And, eventually started my own business, selling coins and paper money. And then
just spiraled into it. That's it.
Here we are.
You're hooked.
And we're hooked. And we're here.
You're it. That's it.
So I know that we recently shared the Maastricht auction online. Can you guys tell us about some of the collections that are worthy of note?
Yeah, well, we have some of the Altkugel collection, which is an incredible collection of all sorts of European properties. We have some of the Scott Lindquist collection in there. We have some of the Outback collection, which has incredible Australian highlights in there. And of course, we have a Landhaus collection, which is from Curacao. And I think nobody is better in the world to discuss this collection than Dennis Hengeveld. So Dennis, maybe you could offer some thoughts on that collection.
Yeah, Aris, the Landhaus collection is really, you look at it, first of all, Curacao, obviously in the Caribbean, just off the coast of Venezuela. I don't know if you know this, but these notes didn't circulate just on Curacao. They were also on Aruba, Bonaire, St. Martin, St. Eustatius, and Saba. I may as well list the whole thing. So the focus of this collection is 1930 to 1960, but there's certainly earlier pieces in there. It's missing just one type out of probably 30 different dates and denominations. There's only one of them that's missing in any kind of format. There's a couple rarities filled with specimens, but as a whole, it's an absolutely fantastic collection. And I was honored just to kind of got my feet wet at Stax Bowers by cataloging that, and and now having the chance to offer that at Maastricht.
Absolutely. I think one of the coolest things about some of the work that you brought to that collection is really highlighting some of those key features that even though there are passionate world paper collectors, people who even collect Curacao may not know a lot of the stuff that you put in there. And I personally believe that there's a lot of stories behind the banknotes, and given your passion for it, I think you tell a tale really well, and the sizzle on the steak, if you will. And I think that really translates, and it's apparent in the catalogs. And I'm just excited for everybody to get their hands on it, to see some of this collection, some of the other collections I mentioned, and I think we're going to have a great sale. The Maastricht venue is the premier venue for World Paper Money. It's the largest show. It's an unbelievable eclectic gathering of folks across the board, and we feel an obligation as the main sponsor and auctioneer there to really put on a catalog and an auction that's worthy of that. And this sale for sure does that. I think looking ahead, we've got unbelievable stuff in the pipeline. Now that Dennis is here, I think there's an ability to get even a little more creative with some of the stuff we're trying to do. So I think there's a lot of a great road ahead, and I'm excited for what's to come.
Yeah, and even more exciting knowing that you guys are starting to build like ANA, Hong Kong, and even the next Maastricht auction as well. So that's all we have time for today. Dennis, we're super excited to have you on board. Welcome to Stax Bowers. And I'll let you guys get back to work on building those awesome collections coming up.
Thank you.
Thank you.